Welcome back, Hogwarts students. It is Professor Sarah Beam with you today, and this is the promised tutorial on the DIY journal, cereal box journal that we did during Hogwarts camp. So if you were looking to make another one, or if you weren't able to join us and would like to know how to make your own journal, you are in the right place. Just as an alert, we did get these instructions off of Pinterest. They were the simplest and versions out there if you would like to follow along. But the instructions are linked in the description below, along with instructions on 2 different methods on how to make invisible ink. So you can make your own secret messages in your journal. So I'm going to go through the materials that you need, and then we'll get into making the actual journal. So you will need a cereal box with the front and back cut off of it, or if you have a piece of thin, flexible cardboard around the house, you can certainly use that. All I have done is, because we're going to be using this for another project later on, all I have done is taken some scrapbook paper and glued it to my piece of cardboard that we had here at the library. So that will be the cover of your journal. Then you will use 8.5 by 11 printer paper. You'll want no more than 10 pages or the journal will get too thick and it'll be hard to keep closed and so forth. So 5 to 10 sheets of paper is usually a good size. I have cut both the paper and the cardboard box to 7.25 by 11, but you can certainly use the full size if you have a larger cereal box as well. You will also need a needle and some embroidery thread. If you do not have embroidery thread, you can certainly double, triple up some regular thread or use yarn as well. It will be covered, so it doesn't necessarily matter the color or anything like that. It just needs to be a little bit on the thicker side. You will also need scissors and a thumbtack and a button and some wide tape. So usually about 1.5 inches to 2 inches is good. This is narrower washi tape that we had at the library that I layered to make the desirable width. You can certainly buy washi tape this width. You can use masking tape, or you can use decorative or plain duct tape as well. But this will show on the outside of your journal. So having a little bit decorative or a little bit fun is maybe a little bit more interesting. When it comes to your cereal box, you can use the outside cover, like the decorative bright design, or you can on the outside, or you can put that on the inside if you want the plain kind of cardboard brown on the outside so that you can decorate it on your own. The first step I find after making several of these is to have an adult pre-punch your cardboard and your paper with your tack. Now, I have already done this. So I fold my paper and my cardboard in hamburger style. And then you take a push pin or tack, and you make 3 sets of holes. You're going to want one in the center, one up top, and then one at the bottom. It is also helpful if you line up your button and pre-punch your holes for your button as well. And you can see I have 2 little holes right there. So, and you want to do this all at the same time so that those holes line up. And sometimes it takes a little bit of muscle to get that all the way through, but you can kind of see the holes on the outside as well here. And this is what we're going to stitch the journal together, actually. So with your thread, you're going to thread your needle, and I always like putting a little knot at the end of my thread. Oh, that's a little bit. So it doesn't go through when I'm pulling it through. But you're going to start in the bottom hole of the top. Might be a little bit tricky at first until your holes get big enough. But then you're just going to drag it through, and you're going to take it from the outside in. And then you're going to go from the bottom hole to the top hole. Pull through. And that's going to be your first stitch on the inside of the book. Now that you're on the outside, you're going to once again go to the bottom hole, this time of the middle set. You're always going to go from the bottom hole to the top hole. Now, as I'm doing this, I realized something that I did not do would make this easier is once you've punched the holes from one side, flip it and re-punch those holes from the other side, because that'll make the holes slightly bigger and easier. So we're once again on the outside, and you can see I have made a long stitch here. Now, if you would like to make this tail really long, you would have a built-in bookmark. So you might want to plan and make it like a little bit longer than your journal, and that way you would have a built-in bookmark too, and it would be secure because of the stitching and the tape. But we're in the top hole of the middle set. Then we're going to go back down here to the bottom hole of the bottom set and make our last stitch. So once we have this, you can see on the outside, we have 2 stitches here that overlap in the middle that will secure. And once we have our last stitch in here, last stitch, we have 3 tiny stitches in the center securing the pages to the journal. Now, you will want to secure this on the outside, so I'm just going to run my needle underneath the spine here and make a knot. And I'm going to do that a couple times. And once you have the first knot in, run the needle through the center of that knot, and it'll secure that even more. So under the stitch and then through the hole. And that'll double knot it and secure it. At this point, you are going to, nice and close to that knot, clip it off. And your journal is together. So at this point, we're going to work with the tape. So you're going to take your wide tape and you're going to center it, I'm going to center it on the spine. And this will fold it. And you're going to work from the middle and go out. Because as you're going out from the center, you're going to get the wrinkles and the air bubbles out. It's going to be nice and stuck. I really like washi tape because it is easily torn. But once you have kind of the spine done, just like you would for a note covering a book, you're going to do that on both sides. And doing this will also secure and protect your journal so that it is more secure and takes a beating a bit more easily. So you can leave your journal just like this, or you can make it just a little bit fancier by adding a closure on it. And this is why we have the button. So I have already, as I mentioned earlier, pre-punched my holes for my button. And I just lined the button up about the holes about a 1/2 inch or 1 inch from the edge so that it wouldn't tear out. I poked the pin through the button so I knew the holes were in the right place. And this is actually some life skills too, because you're going to sew this the same exact way you sew a shirt button on or a pants button on. I have knotted the edge and I've pulled it through the hole, strung the button on there, and I'm going to put the needle through the second hole, and it's in there. You don't want to make it too tight on this because you're going to want space for your thread underneath it. And then you're going to hold the needle or hold the button, and you're going to go through those same holes about 3 times. Now parents, I am using a beading needle, which is not as sharp as a sewing needle. If you want the kids to do it, or if you have a quilting needle, those are a little bit blunt, not as sharp, they're a little bit blunter as well. So those would actually work also, if you have those supplies. A regular needle would add a little bit more punch to go through the different layers easily though. Okay, so I'm finishing up my 3rd stitch through the button. And I have this nice little equally stitched on the back as it is the front. So all you have to do to knot it off is work your needle through that stitch and then weave it through the loop, and do that a couple of times, and it'll knot and secure your button there very efficiently. So you can see I have that little loop through and pull it tight. And you're done. So you're not going to trim. I'm going to take my needle out. And you're not going to trim your thread. You're going to make sure you have a nice long leftover tail, and you're going to use that as your closure. And there is your finished DIY Tom Riddle journal. this is a regular old Horcrux. And so down in the description below, you'll find the Google Doc instructions from the library and instructions also for 2 methods of invisible ink. We will see you here very soon.